everybody. Welcome back to the RDL show, Ryan D. Leaf Show. I'm your host, Ryan. Gone last Friday. Went out for a little work vacation, little golf. Turns out, when I did the show on Friday, I just had to wait 15 minutes and it started pouring rain. Got 4 holes in. 4 holes in on Friday, 8 holes in on Saturday when it started snowing. I picked the exactly wrong weekend to travel and play golf with the boys. But it was good to see some friends and get some work done. What we got to experience over the weekend was absolutely madness. That's the best way to put it, right? We're in March. It is March Madness. And I wanted to talk about what the pandemic has meant to college basketball this year. Because guess what we saw? We saw some teams that normally are not around championship Sunday, selection Sunday, punching that card to get them into the tournament. Out in the Pac-12 in my area, Oregon State was picked 12th. They were picked to finish last in the conference, and they went out with Wayne Tinkle and that young team and put a beating on a Colorado team that I thought was a shoo-in to win the championship, and they punched their ticket. Otherwise, they weren't getting in. The Pac-12 put 5 teams in. UCLA got that last one pulling up the rear there. Then you go down to the ACC, where it's always Virginia, North Carolina, Duke, of course, where Duke is nowhere to be found this year. They had a positive test, had to leave the tournament. They still have a chance to get in, would have had a chance to get in. But Georgia Tech wins the ACC. Illinois back on top in the Big Ten, right? Ohio State ends up winning it. Michigan's there. Iowa. The Big Ten is a monster, but not necessarily Michigan States of the world, right? UCLA plays Michigan State in the first 4 in, and that's how that starts. We watched Georgetown, who has been pretty much irrelevant for a while now, go out and dominate the Big East tournament, and Creighton in the final. Texas, under Shaka Smart, hasn't been relevant in terms of what basketball, and they go out in a conference where Baylor is dominated all year long. They go out and beat a couple very good teams to advance as the Big 12 champion. So don't get me wrong. Gonzaga is far and away the best team in college basketball this year. And it's so ironic because of where they come from, this very small market in Spokane, Washington, about 80 miles from where I went to school at Washington State University. So I always talk about how Washington State can be good. If the Zags can be good, then Washington State can be good. And they're kind of trending in that direction right now. But the Pac-12, Oregon, you guys' alma mater. Don't forget I have Jonathan Rifkin, Sky Gausko, Charlie D. Moss here, 2 Oregon boys, and they got into the tournament. But both USC and Oregon are in the same bracket with the Zags. So that's going to be really difficult, I think, for a Pac-12 team to advance to a Final Four this year. And then Charlie, talking pre-show, let us in on a little news that there's some good vibes in Bloomington with the ouster of Archie Miller.
It was time for a change. It was time
for a change. Yeah, like 4 years ago, it was time for a change. It always is a rebirth. You know, there's good vibes in Bloomington, and Charlie's got boots on the ground. He's letting us know how the things go. So, so March Madness for me was hugely fun coming back after missing it a year ago, right? To see some of these teams punch their ticket in interesting ways. And the teams I'm talking about are Georgetown, Georgia Tech, Texas, and Oregon State. That's been a lot of fun. So here at the Ryan D. Leaf Show, we're going to do something fun with March Madness, all right? So the fellas here are putting together an ESPN bracket under the RDL show, and you guys are going to be able to go there, fill out your bracket, and the winner of this year's bracket is going to get some RDL swag. How about that? We'll do we'll give away some memorabilia. Who does the best with their bracket? I always love this. You guys tell me about this, right? Growing up, March, I remember when my basketball coach would pull out the TV on the roller in the gymnasium on the Thursday of March Madness, and we'd go down there and you'd sit and you'd watch basketball from morning until night. I wouldn't go to class during those days, and that's what I look forward to. Interesting note, men out there, schedule your vasectomy on a Wednesday before March Madness, okay? Because you're going to have to sit for 2 days with some frozen peas on your junk and just watch basketball.
Are you speaking from experience? Where did this come from?
I don't know if my dad did it during March Madness, but I've heard this is like the optimal time where men go get their vasectomies.
A very good friend of mine did just that 2 years ago. Last year, of course, we didn't have the conventional tournament due to COVID, but 2 years ago, a good buddy of mine did in fact get snipped this time of year. Great time to lay on the couch for 4 or 5 days continuously. So Ryan, right on point.
Well, I don't know if that's. I don't think I haven't really thought about whether or not I'm done having kids. The crazy thing about a man, is that, we could father a child when we're 80, essentially, if you still have strong swimmers. I don't know how that works, but so
this is how Monday gets off, folks. Schedule your vasectomies before March Madness. Happy Monday.
Yeah, like on Wednesday. Well, when are the play-in games? Tonight and tomorrow?
They're Thursday. They're all on Thursday. And the tournament starts Sunday.
I think they're Wednesday, Thursday.
I think it's all on Thursday.
No. The first four. The first four are always Tuesday night and Wednesday night, I believe.
Well, it used to be like that because of travel, but now they're all in the same place. So I think it's less time in between.
It's all on Thursday, then the regular games start on Friday.
No, you can't do that because you got to play 2 games. So how can you do that?
Because they're doing
fact checking as we speak.
They're doing the 2 games on Thursday.
Then when are the Thursday games played? When are the first round games played?
Friday and Saturday. Friday to Monday.
When are the second first round games being played?
Saturday. The last second round game, the last first round game is Oregon VCU on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm. And then second round.
So they're going to play games on. They're going to play games on Monday then.
Yes.
Why would they play games on Monday?
They wanted to allow for the teams to travel.
They want to screw our show's viewership.
This doesn't seem right. NCAA has never been the smartest, so I guess why wouldn't you have games on? Why would you take games and put it to Monday? I don't understand that. But all right. Anyway, tournament starts this weekend. We're going to put a bracket up on ESPN.com where you can go fill out your bracket for the RDL show. Winner gets some RDL swag. I don't know. Maybe we should get some miniature Louisville Sluggers made, boys. What do you think?
Absolutely.
We should get a Ryan Leaf bobblehead with the RDL shirt, and you're holding like a baseball bobblehead where you're holding a Louisville Slugger.
Maybe.
That would be cool.
I have a Beanie Baby. I have a Ryan Leaf Beanie Baby.
I mean, I stopped sleeping with Beanie Babies 15 years ago, but maybe somebody out there.
My son has it.
I don't know if I want to sleep with a Ryan Leaf Beanie Baby, though.
Well, I live in your brain rent-free anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I don't know if it's rent-free. I donate my time to you, and then you still live in my brain.
Is there anybody going to be able to beat the Zags, guys?
Yes.
Who?
I don't have a team in mind yet, but I do not see them going undefeated the whole way. No, listen. They have
if you're gonna make a statement, you gotta have somebody. You gotta have somebody. You gotta have some semblance of vibes, Charlie. Come on, give us some vibes.
I'll take Iowa. in the West.
Oh, I think Oregon beats the Hawkeyes.
Okay.
I don't even think they.
Well, then maybe Oregon gets a chance.
Ryan's sitting
Iowa,
there
though.
rolling his eyes. Hold on, everybody. Ryan is sitting there rolling his eyes at me. Of course, the Oregon kid takes Oregon over Iowa. I just want to say this. Ryan beat me when we did our Pac-12 podcast this year. Ryan beat me every single week on the lines. However, the most important line to me is what happens with Oregon. And I was right pretty consistently with that team, including when they beat Washington State.
So you were not very good with that team.
Yes,
you were good. You were good with that game. No, you kept.
I was right on Iowa State. I was right on Iowa State. I said they were going to lose to Iowa State. I was right on Oregon State.
Dude, you had like 2 games. But you won a steak dinner. Yes, you won a steak dinner. You weren't. No, you were. Remember, we had a long conversation about this. You went with your gut. You went with your like bias to Oregon a ton last year, and it cost you. It cost you a lot.
All I'm saying is that Oregon is going to beat Iowa in the Sweet 16 this year. That's all I'm saying.
I haven't looked at the bracket yet. I should probably print one of these out.
I'm with Sky. I think the only team that can beat Gonzaga in their region is Iowa, but I'm going to say Gonzaga's not going to win it all this year.
I think they lose, but I think they make it to the championship.
Why would you think that they would be beat?
Because look at the West Coast. Look, first of all, BYU put up a really good fight in the West Coast Conference Championship. Don't get me wrong. BYU is a big team. They lost to you. Yeah, USC beat them early on in the season. They've only lost 5 games. Gonzaga being 2 of those, I guess 3 of those really. But the rest of the West Coast Conference isn't very good. LMU is probably and San Francisco were the next 2 teams up, and neither of those teams are tournament teams.
It's always the case. It's always the case every year. But they dominated everybody else in the non-conference all year.
If it's always the case every year, why is it?
They haven't won one yet.
They've never won one yet.
They've never
They're
won
not
one.
a battle-tested team.
They've never dominated the non-conference like they did this year.
But it's different this year.
They
dominated everybody they played this year.
Okay, but teams at the beginning of the year are very different than teams are now.
That's true. And they almost lost to BYU in the championship.
I think the lack of true competition that they haven't played in the past 2 months is going to bite them in the ass.
All right, boys. $100 each. I bet you the Zags win it all.
Done.
Deal. I'll take the field.
Right.
I'll take the
field.
Wait.
Hold on.
I'm in.
It's Gonzaga or the field?
Yes.
Yeah. $100 each.
I'm in. I'm fully
I'm in for that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Guys, I'm about to start watching some college basketball, I guess.
All right, boys. Hey, before we move on, I want to clear the air. We got off to a contentious start. You know, we didn't have Ryan on Friday. He got snowed on in Arizona for the golfing. I think we're a little fired up this morning. I want to clear the air here. Thursday afternoon, we have the play-in games. Friday, the first round starts. Saturday, the first round continues. Sunday and Monday will be the second round. And then next weekend, of course, we kick off the Sweet 16. Just want to clear the air on that. So Thursday, the play-in games start. Friday, the first round starts. Saturday, the first round continues. Sunday and Monday, we will have the second round of the tournament with the 32 teams. Then next weekend, we kick off, or I should say 2 weeks from now, we kick off the Sweet 16.
That's the first time it's ever done that, then played on Mondays for the second round, huh?
The national championship's always on a Monday, but I agree with you. That's off for the tournament, but a lot of things are different these days.
There's no travel time. They don't have to. There's nobody's going out of region. They're all in one place. So why not just go knock them out?
So are they, Jonathan? Are they doing semblance of like the NBA bubble here in each of these regions?
Well, they created a bubble in Indianapolis, and they're good. They have 3 stadiums. I think Charlie, you probably
it's all over the state of Indiana actually.
But everybody's located in, like, all the teams are housed in a little bubble in Indianapolis, right? They're just transported to wherever.
I believe so, because from Indianapolis, it's only like an hour, 45-minute drive to each location.
To each location, yeah.
Yeah, it's all over the state, but it's
bubbled. We are not creating an NIT bracket, though, just so you know. We're not doing the NIT. Colorado State is doing that.
There isn't an NIT this year, right?
Yeah, there is. It's in Dallas.
Really?
Yep.
Did the Cougars get in?
Washington State did. No Pac-12 teams in the NIT.
Okay. All right. Well, this is what I'm doing right now, everybody. I'm printing I'm printing it out right now so I can take a look. And we're going to go through this stuff. And I'll show you how Gonzaga dominates. And now I become $300 richer.
I would love
Fair
to see
enough.
that. I would love to
Fair
see
enough.
So, like, if I win, I get $100 each from you guys. If you guys win, I give you $1.
What?
Wait, that was not the agreed
it.
upon.
Oh,
Was that a typo?
You didn't say 100 to 1 on the
I-
field. You said $100 each on the
I said
field.
$100
This is not 100 to 1. We're not. I'm not
So
giving you those odds.
if Gonzaga wins, I get $100 each from you. If somebody else wins, I each give you guys $1. But it's really bragging rights is what you're looking for in this process. So I get it. All right, Let me look here. All right, Michigan State, UCLA.
Charlie's face. Charlie's face was priceless. I'm gonna go back and cut that post product.
That was that was rough math. We got to figure
that's
that
a
out.
meme face right there. You killed the good vibes in Indiana, Ryan.
So okay, how does Gonzaga do against either Oklahoma or Missouri?
They
Oklahoma's
beat either of those.
Oklahoma's
Missouri.
the only team of either of those teams that
All right, then do they in the
Virginia
Sweet
might
16,
even get
in the
them.
Sweet 16 they'll play
Virginia.
You think Oregon will play USC in the
They're going to play University of California, Santa Barbara in the Sweet 16. Mark my words.
Wait, you're down below. You're talking. Kansas beats USC. Oregon beats Kansas because Kansas is traveling without two of their best players.
So it's going to be USC Oregon in the Sweet 16.
Oregon, Kansas.
I think we're looking past VCU a little bit.
And I'm honestly I'm a Duck at heart, but I'm gonna go with Iowa over the Ducks. I just think the power there. Anyway, but either way, if you have Gonzaga there,
Luke Garza, that's all I'm saying.
I think Gonzaga's got to get through Virginia first, who is traditionally very good, and then they have to get through whoever in the Elite Eight.
What's up? Look at technology these days. Oh no, it's spazzing. Just kidding. We're not going to do that.
So I got Gonzaga beating Alabama to go to the championship.
Oh, you have Bama?
Wow.
Really?
They got to get through Texas, Michigan.
I mean, so you think – I don't think Bama's beat – Bama almost lost to LSU. They lost to Arkansas in the regular season. I don't think that they beat Michigan.
I know. I'm good for you. That's what I got.
Jonathan's about to win that $1.
Jonathan,
Dude, I'm cashing in $100. Sorry.
So this is good. This is good stuff, guys. We're all ready. So yeah, go fill this out, everybody. We'll talk about it more. But this week, I know you're going to want to eat some junk food, people. But how about this? Since the first four aren't tipping off until Thursday, jump on that fat burn from Sunfair, guys. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, okay? I did it last week, right? And I lost 13 pounds in 6 days.
Well done.
On the fat burn diet. It's just a shock to your system, and away you go. I'm down to the lowest I've been since I think I was a sophomore in college. What you need to do is you need to go to sunfair.com and sign up. Pick Carl Farrow as your representative, your sales representative, and then click on the Where Did You Hear About Us, the Ryan D. Leaf Show, and you will get 10% off your first order, okay? It's been life-changing for me during a pandemic when it's been all about the food. That's all it's been about. No working out, really. Being active, yes, but just fueling the body with sunfair.com. If you are in the local Los Angeles area or in the Phoenix area, you can go to sunfair.com, click on the icon after you enter your information for your sales representative, Carl Farrow, and then Where Did You Hear About It? The Ryan D. Leaf Show. 10% off your first order. Great food. Today, I think today's food for me is herb salmon for dinner, and then turkey cutlets for lunch, and a little shrimp with some shrimp skewers for my snack today. Pretty darn good food for a Monday, getting back into it. Sunfair.com, one of our big sponsors of the Ryan D. Leaf Show. All righty. So March Madness is here. We've talked about it. But what we still cannot escape and will not escape is the beast of it all, right? It's the NFL. They run this show from dusk till dawn, and we are in the biggest part of the off season. Franchise tags last week, free agency firing up this week, and we saw some interesting ones, but the biggest story out of all of it was who was not playing. Charlie and I had a discussion about this because we hadn't heard from Drew Brees. Charlie was very adamant about he believed Drew was done. Sure enough, yesterday, Drew Brees comes out and talks about having a wonderful 20-year career, and he and his family are going to call it quits. So now that puts the onus on New Orleans. Drew Brees, 42 years old, he retires as the NFL's all-time leader in career passing yards at over 80,000 and ranks second all-time in touchdown passes and completion percentage. Just an unbelievable career from a young man from Austin, Texas, who was only offered 2 scholarships, one by Purdue, and I forget what the other one. He took the Purdue Boilermakers to the Rose Bowl for the first time in forever. He then was drafted by my old team, the San Diego Chargers, and him and LaDainian Tomlinson really put themselves in a position. And then something you don't see very often. You don't see guys leave in free agency and have the type of success. He went off to New Orleans right around the time of Katrina. He helped build that city back up. If you remember that Monday night game against the Atlanta Falcons where the place was going nuts, Steve Gleason blocked a punt, and then they go on and win a Super Bowl in New Orleans in 2010. The winningest regular season over the last 4 years was Drew Brees, Sean Payton, and this New Orleans Saints team. They just had some heartbreaking defeats in the playoffs. I thought maybe he'd come back for one more row at it because he was so banged up a year ago. The injuries, and didn't know what they were going to do at the quarterback position. So now we'll see Drew Brees spending more time with his family, and he's going to enter the booth for NBC Sports. He's going to start probably on some Notre Dame games in college and in the studio with analysis, but ultimately he's going to be taking over for Chris Collinsworth down the road after inking that deal a year ago to head on to NBC Sports when his career was over. It was always fun to see him and Tom Brady battle back and forth week in and week out on who was going to be the leader in touchdowns and yards, all the things that played out. But he retires after his 20th season. Unbelievable career for somebody who was undersized, not thought to be able to do some of the things that he was able to do, and the amount of success. And it's because of his work ethic. He was absolutely the hardest working guy in that facility. He was the first one in. He was the last one out. He did the extra work. He sacrificed time with his family. He was a community advocate. He became part of Louisiana and New Orleans once he went there. Again, only one real team wanted him in free agency. Miami was going to offer him a job as well. He chose to go with New Orleans, and boy, what a fit that was for those two. The city of New Orleans and Drew Brees. What are you guys' thoughts on the career of Drew Brees and his announcement yesterday? The future Hall of Famer 5 years from now will be walking into Canton.
I was honestly surprised. I mean, surprise is maybe a strong word. I was actually confident. We talked about this last week or the week before. I was actually confident that he was not going to retire because of the time frame of all of this had gone down. I said that I thought that if he was going to retire, he would have done it at the beginning or the end of the season, I should say, the beginning of the offseason, and he hadn't. He restructured his deal. He took away money to help the team, blah, blah, blah. Went through a conversation about that, and Charlie ultimately was right, and I'm not surprised he retired. We all expected it, but the timing of it, we were talking before we went on air today, the timing of it felt a little strange. Really just a legendary career, of course. He either, he's in the top 1 or 2 of most quarterback records. The one blemish on his career is the postseason. He's 500 in the postseason, 9-9, and that's going to be tough. But other than that, he did have that, huge Super Bowl win over Peyton Manning and the Colts with the onside kick down coming out of halftime, which is a huge gutsy move, and the rest is history there, kind of bringing back that city of New Orleans, as you mentioned, Ryan. So great career. And I think a lot of people forget because he's been around so long. Drew Brees had one of the worst arm injuries you can have. His shoulder literally like ripped off of the tendon there. And Dr. J. Andrews was able to bring him back and basically called it one of the best recovery stories he's ever worked with. And Drew Brees was, 6 feet tall, and the odds were against him. He had that big injury, but came back, and incredible career. So I was a little surprised he did call it quits, but phenomenal.
That's the injury I had too. I tore my labrum as well. My second year in the NFL, in San Diego there. Yeah, it's a difficult one to come back from. I don't think my shoulder was ever the same with that labrum tear, because it connects to the decelerating part of your arm. And it's hard when you let it go. If there's nothing there to help decelerate it, it's like it flies out of the socket every single time. Extremely painful. He did come back, and we wish him well.
Big question, of course, is going to be who's coming up next. I mean, we know how. I mean, look, I love Drew Brees. I think most people are fans of him, unless you rooted against the Saints over your career. But the NFL is ruthless, right? It's next man up. We got to turn the page. And is it going to be Taysom Hill, who got the bag somehow as potentially a third string quarterback? Jameis Winston still has to get back to the Saints. Technically, he's a free agent. Free agency underway. I've got a couple updates here later in the episode, but technically not on the roster right now. But Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston moving forward?
Well, I don't think Taysom Hill showed you anything last year that he's going to be the franchise quarterback. So
the Saints seem to think so financially.
I mean, yeah, $140 million for. I mean, I think I've attempted more passes than he has, right? I was born in the wrong decade. That's just the problem here. I think that Jameis Winston is the natural progression here. If you cut his mistakes in half, if you cut his interceptions down from 30 to 15, and he's still a 30-plus touchdown guy, this Saints team, with the defense that they have, can be potent. The arm strength, yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if, when free agency hits the next few days, if we see Jameis Winston being signed there. My question is what kind of contract is that going to look like? Are you going to have two quarterbacks on your roster with $100 million contracts, or are you going to see a Jameis Winston contract more like 1 year deal like Cam Newton, and let's see what you can do in the 1 year, and if you become the franchise quarterback, we'll sign you to an extension next year.
So what's interesting with the Taysom Hill situation is that the contract on paper is 4 years, $140 million, but all of those years are voidable. So they kind of set themselves up to make those moves if they need to. Right now, it saves the Saints more than $7.5 million against the cap this year, and he's really just getting about $1 million guarantee with a bunch of incentives. So that money Taysom Hill is able to get that money, but it's not guaranteed to him just yet in that form. So they've cut as much as they possibly can. I mean, the Saints came into the offseason about $100 million under the cap, and over the cap, I should say, over the cap. Pardon me. And they've made a ton of trims there. Emmanuel Sanders was a big one, a veteran, but a good clubhouse guy, a good secondary receiver to Michael Thomas. Jared Cook gone, Josh Hill got rid of a couple defenders as well. They need to grab another receiver. They can't just rely on Alvin Kamara for this entire offense with Michael Thomas. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can do this week.
But where do you rank? I know we haven't seen him in a year, but where do you put Jameis Winston in the field of 32? Now we don't know what the quarterback situation for a lot of these teams is going to be, but where do you put him in the field of 32 quarterbacks right now? Where do you value
with Sean Payton as his head coach?
Yeah.
Higher than he would be.
16.
So you give him a top. You think he's in the top half of quarterbacks?
Well, it's right on the 50-50 line, yeah.
Right. So I mean that
with Sean Payton. Sean Payton, I've never seen a coach that is better at generating mismatches and putting your quarterback in the best possible position to be successful. So Yeah,
what
I think
what
you
sets
put.
Sean Payton apart from Bruce? Because isn't Bruce Arians supposed to be the quarterback whisperer? Isn't he supposed to be the one who helps these quarterbacks get put in the best situation to elevate their game and the players around them?
I didn't necessarily think so. I thought he was blessed with great quarterbacks, not the other way around.
So you don't think that you think that Jameis Winston's problem?
Jameis Winston threw for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns under Bruce Arians.
Right, but he also
threw 30 interceptions.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that had to do with the scheme and a little bit of the carelessness and the DGAF approach, if you will, of that offense. And if you
what did you just say?
The DGAF approach.
What's the DGAF approach?
Don't give a blank.
Oh, what the DGAF? Okay,
it's the Mike Leach offensive perception.
The run and gun, and I think with Jameis coming in, I thought coming out of college a bit immature to take on that kind of a role, trying to carry the team offensively through the air. I thought it was a bit of a struggle for him. And yes, he put up 5,030, but those 30 interceptions, a lot of those, if you've gone back and looked at them, a lot of those, weren't necessarily his fault, but you could also make the argument he should have thrown more potentially. I don't think Sean Payton's going to let him loose as much. They're also a much more controlled offensive attack. And I think that would just set up for less mistakes. I agree with Ryan. I think he'll actually progress. First of all, he's more mature as an NFL quarterback. He had a year to sit behind Drew Brees. And let's not forget.
I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if he's more mature. I
think he's
going to get more mature. But
how about more?
He's older.
More experienced. Let's not forget that Teddy Bridgewater 2 years ago stepped in, went 5-0 for the Saints with Brees out, and then Taysom Hill went 3-1 last year as a starting quarterback. So over the last 2 seasons, Saints quarterbacks without non-Drew Brees are 8-1 with him out. So Teddy is set up, and that the rest of that team and the coaching staff are very good. So he could certainly make them a competitor at least.
Well, defensively, they're going to be a stout team again. They have, if they get just decent quarterback play, Sean Payton's going to put them in positions to be successful. The problem is they're playing in a division that, has the greatest of all time and the defending Super Bowl champions, and that they play twice a year. What's ironic about all this is, the defending Super Bowl champions got, beat down by this New Orleans Saints team twice this year. So just the one that counted for the most marbles, the playoff game, they got beat. So I think they're going to go in the direction of Jameis Winston. I think Taysom Hill is going to continue to be the hybrid, innovative offensive player that Sean Payton views him as. And they're going to have to go find one more wide receiver to complement the rest of the guys after Emmanuel Sanders was released this week. And I think they are right back in the mix when it's all said and done. Jameis has just got to protect the ball better, and it's something that Sean Payton has always been really good at, and that is protecting his quarterback, protecting the ball by putting themselves into great positions and having receivers running wide open rather than tightly covered, I think is the best way to put it in terms of what Sean Payton's been able to do offensively during his tenure as an NFL head coach.
They have to win though, right? Not like, but with what they're spending on the cap against the cap, right? Like they're 140 million over the hard cap or something insane like that. Like if you the only way you can justify spending that money is by winning football games, right? So
they're the winningest team.
But
the last 4 years.
How long does this experiment last before? Because eventually you're going to have to gut the big contracts if it's not working out and start rebuilding, right? What's the leash on being against the hard cap with this team? And most of those are defensive players, but you have to go out and find a wide receiver now, and that's going to go against the cap. So what's that going to look like 2-3 years in this situation? And then if it doesn't work, you gut it. Like what's the leash with the cap being what it is? Because you can't retain in the long term, you can't retain all these players for what you're paying them if you're not winning football, if you're not winning a Super Bowl, right? Like that's the expectation.
Well, there's one team that wins a Super Bowl, Jonathan. So, I mean, the expectation is they're the winningest team in the regular season the last 4 years. They've gotten deep into the playoffs every single year. So, yeah, I mean, they're giving themselves an opportunity every single year. If they don't get it done this year, is that going to be the end? I don't know. They'll wait and see. I think I don't think Sean Payton's going to be part of a rebuild. I think when they decide to blow it up, I think Sean Payton's done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's going to sit through a rebuild. He's going to lay it down with all the chambers unloaded in his gun. I really do think that.
I think too. I mean, if they can look, if it's Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston or anybody else over the next 2 to 3, 5 years, whatever, their nucleus.
It's not going to be Taysom Hill. It's not going to be Taysom Hill.
Their nucleus on the Saints, offensively and defensively, and their power weapons with Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara are still in their prime for a while. So I think like the older aging piece of the entire team was Drew Brees. And so I don't think they're anywhere close to a rebuild personally for a while. Now, if they experience a bunch of injuries or something we can't see yet, then that's different. But they seem to be still in their prime. And if any of these quarterbacks can keep them afloat, I think the rest of the team, the scheme, and the coaching staff, which is proven in little sample size without Drew Brees with the last 9 games we mentioned, they can get them back to a playoff caliber team. Atlanta's kind of rebuilding. Carolina's really young and rebuilding. Obviously, you got to go through Brady. But they could certainly be in the hunt as they have been for the better part of the last decade or two.
My comp to Jameis Winston is Matthew Stafford. So if the LA Rams were all in terms of getting a trade to get that guy out there to try to win a championship, and he's 5 years older than Jameis Winston, I think that if you're Saints fans out there, if Jameis Winston is your starting quarterback next year, be ready for a fun ride down south with this New Orleans Saints team next year. I really, really do believe that.
Ryan,
Prescott.
I was just gonna have one more question here with the type of receiver that you might want to see in New Orleans. There's a lot of free agents obviously out there. We're going to see them land over the next week. Should New Orleans, they don't have a lot of money to play with, obviously. So are they actually going to target a Kenny Golladay, Juju Smith-Schuster, Will Fuller, or who you're going to have to pay because they're young? Or can you go with a veteran, Marvin Jones, a seasoned veteran, or maybe a John Brown, even AJ Green or something as another possession receiver who won't be as much because I think they're just looking for a contract on the backside of 30 at this point.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to have to go somebody with cheaper. So, Will Fuller, I think with all the off the field issues, might be able to get him on the cheap. I also think that John Brown, guy in the slot, they're going to have to replace the guy in the slot. So we're going to move on to one of our other sponsors, Athletic Brewing, non-alcoholic brewing company, does a tremendous job. We got Run Wild, non-alcoholic IPA today, boys. It's good sound. It's good sound. If you love the taste of a good IPA, but don't want the consequences the day after, Athletic Brewing is for you. Go to athleticbrewing.com and get 10% off, 10% off and free shipping of your first 2 6-packs when delivered. Athleticbrewing.com. When you just love the taste, but don't want to wake up with the consequences. I think that's the best way to put it. This is pretty good.
We'll have a link in our bio as well that you can click on.
Good. There's a link in our bio where you can go. I've been using it. I've been drinking it now since the show started. Ironically enough, we're 2 weeks in only. Feels like we've been doing the show for quite a while now. But athleticbrewing.com, go there, 10% off your first shipment or off your first order and free shipping. Link in our bio. We talked about Dak last week before we shuttled off into the weekend. And then I heard some things over the weekend in terms of now that Jerry has his quarterback locked up for the foreseeable future, the next 4 years, does this mean that the Cowboys now are a threat in not only the NFC, but the entire, NFL league. And when I heard it, guys, I immediately started to chuckle because if it weren't for just an absolutely asinine special teams play by Atlanta early in the year, this Dallas Cowboys team is probably winless with Dak breaking every possible record there are out there in terms of passing yardage. I really thought Mike McCarthy was going to get fired when the season was over. I think that was a poor hire by Jerry Jones. Mike Nolan, the defensive coordinator, already out. He was the sacrificial lamb after the year that they had. Defensively, they're in shambles. The offensive line is beat to hell. They overpaid for a running back that is going to be in that locker room until 2023 at the earliest. And now you're talking about having to go pay some wide receivers. And I think it's going to be a real difficult time for the Dallas Cowboys to be in a situation where they're fighting for a Super Bowl championship anytime soon, regardless of having Dak Prescott in place. What do you guys think about that?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
Yeah, their defense is just nowhere near the level it needs to be at to be in a place where they can compete for a title.
But Ryan, I have a question then.
Yeah.
If you don't think that the Cowboys are that retaining Dak Prescott for the tenure that they're re-signing him, for the amount that they're re-signing him, we talk about on this show, especially last week emphatically, that who do you pay? You pay the quarterback, you pay the players that protect the quarterback, and you pay the players that get after the other team's quarterback. That's it. Those are the players that you pay, because those are the impact on this game is largely due to quarterback play. So what if Dak is getting this money, what do the Cowboys have to do now to ensure that they are contenders, right? Because otherwise they're paying him unnecessarily. There was no reason to give him this contract if they don't believe that they're going to be contenders with Dak.
Oh, no, I believe Jerry Jones always believes they're going to be contenders. I think that they just live in a fantasy world sometimes, and you and we live in reality, right? And we watch it play out. And they're playing in the NFC East, where you can go 6-10 or 7-9 and be in the playoffs, right? So you can be a division champion in that division. So I believe they believe that. I think they paid the right guy. I definitely believe they paid the right guy at the quarterback position. My question is what are they going to do defensively? They have just been so poor on the defensive side of the football. I think as far back as, I can't think of the last time they were good enough on defense. Maybe as far back as when they had DeMarcus Ware on the end, and they were playing. And maybe that's the Tony Romo days. Really, that's the last time the defense I remember being a dominant kind of defense. So, they're going to have to improve greatly. They really, really are. But they took the right step. The mistake I feel they made in terms of now being on hold with money is when they went out and paid Ezekiel Elliott a couple years ago. He's tied into that franchise now until 2023. Last year, he may have been one of their biggest liabilities on the offensive side of the football. He didn't run with the kind of angst and anger and purpose that Pollard did, I feel, throughout the year. So we'll see if he bounces back after an off year, see what they do defensively. But I do think, to your point, I think signing Dak Prescott was needed. They certainly couldn't have let him get away when you have a franchise quarterback like that, and you were able to get him so cheap for the first 5 years of his contract because he was a third-round draft pick in on a rookie contract. So definitely a win for both those, and away we go with Dak Prescott in the new era in Dallas. Scott, you got some more free agent updates. What were the biggest surprises to you guys yesterday? Aaron Jones's signing for $10 million a year was
big one.
That's what I was going to say.
You and I, you guys and I talk about this all the time. I'm like, just don't pay running backs. Now, were you going to lose him? That may have been the case. They may have lost him, so they had to go pay him. Aaron Jones reached an agreement with the Green Bay Packers on a 4-year deal worth $48 million, including a $13 million signing bonus. Drew Rosenhaus is having a good couple days the last few days.
Usually does.
Picking up that commission, show me the money, Jerry Maguire style, the last couple days for Drew Rosenhaus. He's doing a heck of a job. Keeping him there, though, I will say this: he was hugely beneficial to Aaron Rodgers over the last few years when Aaron didn't have necessarily the best skill position players. But then again, if you recall correctly, in the divisional championship game, or in the NFC championship game, he was kind of a liability. He fumbled the ball, he dropped the ball out on the wing, and he didn't help at all in that game against the Tampa Bay Bucks. He's had some pretty darn good seasons the last few years. Jim Brown, when you're compared to and talked about in the same sentence as Jim Brown, that's pretty good company. He's only 26, still pretty young, one of only 2 players in NFL history to post 3,000 plus rushing yards and 35 plus rushing touchdowns with an average of 5+ yards per carry. That's so impressive. 5.2 yards every time he touches the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You kidding me? Who's the other one? Jim Brown. So solid pickup. Let's see what they do in terms of free agency at the wide receiver position. I would love for the Green Bay Packers to go and grab a hold of Brandon Cooks. I think he would be an unbelievable fit on the interior for them. Probably harkens back a little bit to Randall Cobb and where Aaron Rodgers was at his best when he had that crew with Jordy and Randall and that crew. That's where I thought he was his best. So
they talked about Will Fuller at the trade deadline last year, and they couldn't get it done. But another, obviously, a speedster. He's had injury trouble, but when he's on the field with Deshaun Watson back in Houston, absolutely dominant. He was having a career season easily in the first 8 games. Then he was suspended for PEDs. That came out to be a quote-unquote accident, so we'll see what happens there. But nonetheless, Will Fuller, I think, is going to be a great addition anywhere. We do have a couple of comments, and I know we want to get through a couple more things here on the pod, but I do want to run through quickly what has gone down this morning.
Is this a pod?
I was thinking the same thing. I heard it as well.
I believe this is a live TV show. Sky,
I think that Sky is used to talking about his award-winning podcast,
right?
So that's just his second nature.
And we have more. And we have more with the episode. I think it's just you're gonna have to get used to the verbiage. It's okay, Sky. All right.
My apologies. Still the new guy. Sorry about that. So a couple things that have gone through. We've talked about Aaron Jones. My boy Kyle Juszczyk returns to San Francisco. 5 years, $27 million. $5 million a year for a fullback. Love to see that. Kevin Zeitler goes to the Ravens. Shaq Barrett returning to Tampa Bay. We talked about him.
That's huge.
Ryan, you talked about him last week, and you wanted to make sure that they locked him back up. His deal includes $36 million guaranteed, 4 years, $72 million. Ryan, quick thoughts on Shaq Barrett, and I'll get to the rest of these.
Oh, that's huge. I mean, Tom Brady has made that a landing spot. Guys are willing to take a little less money. He could have broke the bank somewhere else. I know Atlanta had offered him was going to offer him a big contract to be a pass rusher for the Falcons. So him staying put. I mean, what's changing with this team? I could see Leonard Fournette getting away, but I don't see this team changing much more after that. And they're probably going to add another piece or two in free agency. How is this team not easily the favorite going into the offseason right now? I don't see why they're not. Kansas City just lost their left and right tackle and on offense, and that's what protects Patrick Mahomes. So right now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in my eyes, are far and away the Super Bowl favorites.
Bucs just have to stay healthy.
They just have to stay healthy, and we'll be right here for Super Bowl next year in SoFi Stadium. Will Tom Brady and this Bucs team be making a return visit?
Speaking of Tom Brady, his
live RDL show from the Super Bowl next year, right?
Oh yeah,
ooh, love that.
Okay, good.
Ooh, I would love that.
Love that. Speaking of Tom Brady, his former team, the Patriots, very busy this morning so far. They started off right away. Jonnu Smith, former tight end of the Tennessee Titans, goes over to New England, 4 years, $50 million. I don't think you can compare anybody to Travis Kelce or Rob Gronkowski. However, Jonnu Smith, I think, has the athletic ability to potentially be that if they target him. Let's not forget Cam Newton back with the Patriots as well. Hyper-targeted Greg Olsen for years in Carolina there as well. They also bring in Jalen Mills, 4 years, $24 million, defensive back, and Matthew Judon from the Ravens, 4 years, $56 million. So the Patriots quite busy, and the 49ers also bring back cornerback Jason Verrett as well. So that's about where we're at currently on NFL free agency.
The Smith one to New England seems like the right fit.
I agree.
This is exactly what Bill Belichick's blueprint has looked like in terms of building offensive line up front, good tight ends. Interesting, the quarterback play and what they're going to look like. If they're going to be more of a run-first team, more like what Tom Brady was in the infancy of his NFL career, where they ran the ball first before he became a throw it, 45, 50 times a night gamer like that. So we'll see what happens there. So free agency is on the move. It really gets it's going to get lathered up and get moving here. Before I get into another quarterback spotlight here, we're going to look at Zach Wilson out of BYU. We had a little news about in the boxing world, Tyson Fury and Joshua inked a, what was it, two-fight deal. And that's big for the heavyweight fight fans out there to see these two locked in for a couple big bouts over the next year. I thought that was some good news. I used to go to fights all the time in Vegas. I remember seeing Mike Tyson live put a beating on Francois Botha, the White Buffalo, his name was at the time. Dr. Dre was sitting right in front of us. It was crazy. Fun times. So before we end the show, we indulged the listener and the viewer with who we thought was going to be the number one overall pick in Trevor Lawrence, the pros and cons, his upside. Zach Wilson, all right? Quarterback out of BYU. The arm strength is through the roof. For me, what he brings to the table is his experience. He has been around for a long, long time. He's had to deal with adversity because of multiple injuries. The season they had to put together this year, I think, is huge. His arm strength is by far the strongest arm in this NFL draft at the quarterback position. And that's saying a lot with the likes of Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields sitting around him. But he, for me, has the most relaxed arm angle. And when he lets it go, it has velocity and gets to where he needs to right now. The adversity part for me is big too. He was injured over a year ago. He's sneaky athletic, like all the quarterbacks have to be this day and age when you're heading to the next level. And I think he has a swagger to him, right? We were looking for a comp. You guys were talking about some early on guys, Ty Detmer,
Steve Young,
Steve Young, Steve Sarkisian out of BYU. For me, I'm going a little more bad boy Jim McMahon in his time at BYU, because I do think one of the pros that Zach Wilson has is his swagger. There was something about that this year and his swagger and what he went through and how he went about his business. And so those are the pros for me. Now, some of the cons, the things that you always can get better at, and what he may have lacked during his time in college was, I think, the competition level, right? They just did not play, the best competition out there. In particular, this year, the one game they really did schedule on short notice against Coastal Carolina, a really good defense. They made Zach Wilson look ordinary or average. He bounced back in the bowl game against a UCF team that was really good and dominated and formed there. But the competition for me is something that you want to take a look at when you're watching the film who are the guys he's throwing against. How wide open are the receivers, because the guys aren't going to be wide open like that playing for the New York Jets next year. Big moments for him. There weren't a lot of big moments when he played Division I, Power 5 teams, Utah every year, Washington and
They
Jacob
beat Tennessee
Eason.
in double overtime, didn't they, a couple years ago?
They did. So has everybody. Beat Tennessee. They beat USC.
Not the Hoosiers.
They beat USC. They beat USC last year or 2 years ago, and then got dominated by Jacob Eason and Washington. So that for me is something I'm on. So big moments for him. He doesn't have too many of those necessarily that stand out.
What about leadership, Ryan? Everybody's talking about how he wasn't a captain, right? That was one of the biggest marks against him. Does that matter to you at all?
I'm confused because he wore a C on his jersey the entire year. So I'm confused as to what that means, where that noise is coming from. Seemingly, it sounds like his teammates loved him. The one thing I did see is when he got his ass stomped in that Coastal Carolina game after throwing an interception. Teammates didn't really come to his aid that much, right? He kept getting pounded into the ground. If that was happening to me that final year, oh boy, my left tackle and my right tackle would have been knee deep in some Pac-10 ass because of that. That's for sure. And the last thing for me is the New York lifestyle. Okay, now the media market, there's something to be said about it. The likes of Mark Sanchez, who is a Southern California born and raised, extrovert, flamboyant, has a big personality, and then Sam Darnold, who has an understated personality yet, but is Southern California, laid back. Things can kind of roll off his shoulders, the criticism, but they both took things really personally. And we've seen Zach Wilson take things very personally. And what happens when they struggle and the media gets dogged like they do in New York? Is it the right fit for him? If I'm Zach Wilson, I don't want to go to New York, but I don't know if he's going to have a choice when this is all said and done. So for me, those are the pros and cons to Zach Wilson. I don't believe he should be the second overall pick, but I think he's a guy that can go later in the draft. But he's most likely going to because of the season he's had and the momentum he has going forward. So that's our rookie quarterback spotlight on Zach Wilson out of BYU, most likely going number 2 overall to the New York Jets. We'll see how that plays out. Got some good news on Friday. Sue Bird got back to me. She's going to be joining the show at some point this week. I'm going to fanboy out over that a little bit. But again, start of the third week, guys. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. And that's what we're doing. We're having a blast here at the Ryan D. Leaf Show. From Jonathan, Sky, and Charlie, I'm Ryan Leaf. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys Wednesday.